and flirting with him and talking to him very feminine, the way he wants to be talked to. But that's like having, like I said, a fire person, a fireman or woman, or that's like having someone, what is it, that comes in an ambulance to save someone having a heart attack, and them saying, I don't know if I can help you. I see you're having a heart attack, but I don't know, you're not, I need you to flirt with me a little. I need you to make me feel a certain way before I help you. You understand? It's that type of energy, and it's really disgusting. And that's the reason this man is a complete idiot, and he's under spiritual judgment and going through what he's going through right now. Because in his position, only women that do talk to him like this, that do push their breast up in his face, that do kind of flip their hair around and poke out their lips and try to talk to him like a daddy or something like that, those are the only voices that are heard. And these are horrendous crimes and atrocities that have been committed on innocent people. And like I said, what's happening to you is completely unheard unless this man, you're able to flirt with him. And like I said, speak to him like he's a sugar daddy or something. He will not hear you or help you or anything. And he's in trouble now because of that. God doesn't put you in positions of authority to abuse it or use it to stroke your own ego and try to feel good about yourself and get attention from younger women that normally nobody would give you any attention. But, oh, I see you're on fire. Okay, so you're telling me somebody set you on fire, and because I'm a fireman, you want me to put the fire out. And even though this is part of my job because my taxes, the taxes you pay for this service, I'm not going to do it because I want to use this position and opportunity to get you to flirt with me and make me feel a certain kind of way. Whoever this person is, they need to be dragged off to hell. I'm just telling you now. Whoever this masculine is, he needs to be dragged off to hell. He doesn't need his job. He doesn't need to be in a position he's in. He's using it for his own personal self-esteem. Okay? Someone needs to use more discernment. I have throat chakra. I have perception in reverse. And this has to do with, again, he's like, why aren't you talking to me more seductive and kissing my behind and asking me to help you or get these people to stop trying to hurt and harm you and dump gasoline and set you on fire? Why? I want you to address me in a more seductive way. And in the meantime, your skin is starting to peel from the acid, from the gasoline, from the fire. You're on fire. You're literally on fire while he's going through this in his own mind. Like, I need you to be more seductive in how you address me, while you're burning on fire. And he sees this and he's still, no, I need to be entertained. I need to utilize this position to get you to grovel, to get you to flirt with me, show me your teeth. I need you to push your breast up to me. I need you to do all these things for me I can't hear you unless you look sexy. It's some energy like that with this weirdo that needs to be fired immediately. But if they don't fire him, God is going to fire him and he'll lose his life. And we can all celebrate. I don't care. Okay? I have third eye chakra. This person does not use their intuition and communication in reverse. Okay? It doesn't matter how anybody communicates something. If you got people on fire in a burning house, you cannot expect them to talk in the tone that you need them to. They're on fire, they need help, and they're going to be screaming at the top of their lungs because they're in pain. And until they get out of pain, they're going to be screaming at the top of their lungs. They're not going to be able to address you in a seductive, sexy way. They're not going to be able to, whatever it is this man is trying to triangulate or leverage his position, whatever energy this idiot, this man that's an idiot, is trying to leverage his position, job, or authority, whatever type of energy he's leveraging that for to get out of women, he is allowing a lot of people to suffer and be hurt. And that is the reason why he's under spiritual judgment. I have communication in reverse and emergence. Okay, so what I have here is the wheel. The 10 of Lotus in reverse is the wheel. Somebody's stuck in a cycle right now because they have someone with the Jezebel spirit. That's the future Empress, Yasodhara. So this is one of the energies, a spoiled brat energy that this masculine has allowed to abuse people in the workplace, out the workplace, Wherever he works at, there is a Jezebel energy here that's a spoiled brat that will give him that energy that he's looking for. And it could be a relative of his or not, but men are very nasty. They'll even show favoritism to relatives, nieces, daughters, and cousins that give them that sexual energy, even being around them because they're nasty. But whoever this person is, this person has gotten away possibly with being a thief, stealing, and doing a whole lot of wicked things because of this man's job position. And justice and karma is what's here right now. So right now, karma is going to be served on this masculine for allowing so many people to be hurt and physically and spiritually abused because he wanted somebody to stroke his ego and make him feel good. And he was leveraging his job and authority and position to get that type of energy from women instead of functioning in his job the way he's supposed to. The Seven of Vadas, it reminds us not to steal. Okay, really quick, I'm going to give that to you all. The Seven of Vadas talks about and speaks to causing misfortune for others and expecting good karma. How ignorant that is. Okay, not now. I am doing a reading. Don't you? Not now. No, don't. No, no. Don't you do it. Get down. No. Okay, the Seven of Vadas. That's this card right here. You see a man. He's stealing and running out of a warehouse. Okay. In a scene on the card, we see a warehouse with cushions and jewels stored inside. A thief is leaving with a bag of jewels. His suspicious glance gives him away. This card represents dishonesty. Okay. So there's a spoiled brat energy that was giving this man all that feminine energy that he enjoys, putting red lipstick on and flirting. And, he got all this energy from this woman right here that's a spoiled brat. And because of it, she's had the ability to steal from people and to get away with a lot of dishonesty. Okay, we are told not to steal, not to lie, not to cheat on our spouse. These rules are not for the sake of others, but for our own sake. These negative actions stem from the false belief that we can prosper from the misfortune of others. This ignorant behavior separates us from others and does violence to our ability to become one with the world. However, it is not enough to refrain from negative behavior. We must cultivate positive behavior instead. Instead of not stealing, we must develop generosity. Instead of not lying, we must develop truthfulness. Instead of not cheating, we must develop contentment. If a dishonest action is not engendered by negative, selfish interests, then it does not fall in the same category. For example, if we stole a weapon from a would-be killer to stop him from killing, this is not a negative action. But if the reading is referring to this kind of action, it is describing a heroic act. Look for what is being stolen and why. You understand? So we understand that sometimes you have to do things that might be dark. You understand? Like if you had to steal a weapon to protect a person that's trying to kill innocent people, then that's not ignorant. That's not bad behavior. That's not negative. It's looked at as heroic because of the intention, like a police officer. like a good police officer, they have to do things that are dark, which might have to do with physically hurting people, restraining them, sometime running them down, and I said a good police officer, using a gun, shooting people. These are not things that we're happy about, but if it's to save innocent people and protect the public, then they must be done, and it's considered heroic. Sometimes we have to operate out of the dark to defend the light. But it's okay when you have to do dark things
the lighting to the models to
and protect the light. But when you're just doing a lot of bad things to people, being dishonest and deceptive, then no, you don't get blessings for that. You get bad karma. Okay? So whoever this Jezebel energy is, they were able to steal from a lot of people and also abuse a lot of people because she gave this masculine the energy that this masculine wanted and was looking for. And now he's getting bad karma because of that. You don't sit up there and abuse, once again, I'm going to say it, you don't sit up there and abuse your job and position where it's something that you actually have to do to uphold your job, but I need you to give a certain type of feminine energy for me to do my job. yeah, for me to do this, I need you to poke your lips out and lick them a little bit when you ask me. Yeah, no, leverage your authority, job, or position. Do your damn job. You get a paycheck. Do your job. Nobody has to flirt with you or give you any kind of energy, but be respectful to get something done. So somebody does not like the way people are speaking out and complaining about what's being done because they're like, you're not talking to me in the way that I like to be talked to. I like to be.
Welcome, my friends. For those of you that are unaware, I posted a very, very important video on Saturday. It was well on its way to over 100,000 views in just a day. And of course, it had to be taken down, courtesy of the spiritual community who have sold you out completely for clicks, subscribers, and ad revenue. Let's make one thing perfectly clear. Your liberation, your freedom, and the truth cannot and will not be stopped. This bell has been rung. Watch this video, which is scaring the spiritual community. And let me be a little more accurate about that. A very small minority of the spiritual community, because some of the spiritual community shows I've been on have already reached out to me and actually agree with me. But there's someone who is very frightened. They should be. Watch this video again and share it, because it's the single most important video that completely and utterly encapsulates the fear mongering and scare tactics used to create and usher in a dystopian timeline. And the spiritual community has been hijacked. The truth, liberation, and your freedom cannot be stopped. Watch the video that they don't want you to see and share it with everyone. Join me very soon on our series of global meditations, which one will be coming up very soon. Make sure to sign up on the link below so you're notified as we all come together, unified with the same desire and intention to heal ourselves and to heal the planet. I remain your holy brother. This is the most important stage of this evolutionary cycle, right? This very moment. And that's why there's such a war for your attention on doom and gloom, your attention on chaos from the spiritual community, your attention on doom and gloom, chaos, madness, destruction, right? Because they want to make sure that that dystopian reality actually comes into our timeline. And this doesn't fully bloom. We just get another version or a parallel condition of not quite open. So we are now in this very important stage, and where we put our attention intention will determine the reality that we create for ourselves.
Welcome, everyone, to the Heart Coherence Collaborative. We are honored to have our friend RJ Spina with us again today. Thank you so much, RJ, for being back with us.
Welcome back.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so reason I got so inspired to have you back on was I've been watching some of your other podcast interviews that you've been doing, and they are literally mind-blowing. The information that you're talking about, ascended masters, like the corrections of historical, phenomena are like mind blowing. And so I couldn't wait to have you come back on and dive in. And so just going to start with a question that I've been curious about. We've had a lot of people come on talking about they're projecting different entities coming down to the planet right now to save, humanity. Is that something that you have had any recollection of happening in history or potentially happening now?
Well, save humanity. Okay, well, save it from what? So I'm not really sure about saving. And there's certainly been advanced beings that keep showing up over and over again. which is where these advanced civilizations pop up out of nowhere. All of a sudden, there's this vast, vast knowledge of science, astrology, mathematics, and these advanced civilizations just keep popping up over and over again. And this is absolute. We'll use the word visitation from more advanced or evolved beings that keep doing that. And sometimes those are ascended masters as well. But in terms of saving, I don't know if I agree with that word and what it implies. I mean, we're going to create. Well, let me back up. Let me just say that destiny is always being written. It's being written moment to moment, and it's really a function of attention and intention. And so we've been hearing a lot about prophecy. The spiritual entertainment news networks are constantly promoting doom and gloom and beware and chaos and madness. I mean, essentially, the spiritual entertainment news networks have been making a massive, massive mistake, and humanity is the one that's paying for it. And it's because we're putting our attention from a heightened states of emotionality onto a reality that we don't desire to manifest. So it's really been working backwards. And some could even say that the spiritual community, the way that it is operating, is actually the false light in making us put our attention from a heightened state of emotionality onto a reality that we don't desire to create, under the guise of they're channeling the information, or it's been written, or it's prophecy. My direct experience is that there is no authentic guide or helper that ever speaks in terms of doom and gloom. Ever. They don't see things in those ways. So if channelers or psychics are getting that kind of information, I would be very, very mindful of where they're getting their information from, how much of that information is being skewed by their own mindset, and therefore we can only see what it is that we're already projecting. I think we've been operating backwards, and I think the spiritual community is right there with the mainstream media. They've figured out that fear sells, and they've figured out that what we put our attention on is actually what we create. And so, as you know, Kyle, I've been working in the opposite way, not just in this incarnation, but in every incarnation. I work in the opposite way about detachment and self-empowerment and creating from the limitless I am, and not putting our attention, because where your attention goes, your energy flows, and only put your attention on what you want to grow. So by paying more and more attention to more and more doomsday predictions, we are creating a dystopian timeline that we don't wish to have under the guidance of spiritual information.
You mentioned destiny when you were talking, and I would love to hear how you answered this question, which is kind of like a internal quagmire maybe that many think about. There's this idea that, there's a destiny, or that God knows everything that's going to happen. And yet we're here and we're supposed to have free will. And at the same time, we're born into our environment with our certain brain. So even maybe the fact that we make choices is an illusion. I'd love to hear you talk about the truth of having self-will, and and how that can all be true at the same time.
Okay, that was a big question.
I
Okay.
know.
and an excellent question with many layers to that,
Yeah.
Leah. So So the analogy I'll first use about free will is that we all have a life plan, right? And you could think of it like a movie script. It's just an analogy, right? So there are certain events, circumstances that we plan to experience, and we could think of these things as data points along a timeline, and that's really what our life plan is. And the idea behind each one of these data points is to serve as an energetic bucket of cold water to wake oneself up from the stupor of personhood and eventually realize the self, or become self-realized. That's really what those data points are for. Now, these things are absolutely mapped out meticulously before we get here. In fact, we even run trials, if that makes sense. The higher self is able to create an environment where we have a trial run of the incarnation and see how it's actually working out. And from those trial runs, where we can actually make a lot of adjustments to see, well, we're not really working well with our life plan, so maybe we can make an adjustment here. So what goes into an incarnation is absolutely remarkable and so far beyond what the finite mind can actually comprehend. Now, so we have this plan, and this plan also involves soul contracts, people that we're going to have certain experiences with and certain relationships with. Now, we have a plan, but just like if you have a movie script, and let's say you're filming your movie or your TV show, and it's going along, and then all of a sudden you realize, you know what, that didn't quite work. What if we let's go off script for a moment? What if we just go in this direction? Let's improv, and let's see what happens here. And go ahead, action. And then we actually develop something that's even more impactful. Yet it's on the fly and it's unscripted. So we have this ability to do that. Now, as odd as this sounds, this unscripted nature is also built into the possibility of the life plan to actually go off the life plan, which seems like an oxymoron, but it actually isn't. So the free will comes in that if we have mapped out, let's say, being born in New York, and part of our life plan is to travel to California because there's going to be various experiences and people that we meet that will be crucial in the evolving data points and the evolution of our consciousness through the incarnation. So that's mapped out. Now, the free will, Leah, comes in from how you get there. So in other words, we could go from New York to California by taking a flight. We could take a train. We could drive. We could take a bus. We could hitchhike. We could walk, et cetera, et cetera. So the free will comes in the how that data point, how you bring it about, or how you get to that next data point. But in the sense that we're already operating from a script. So there is free will, or there's the illusion of free will, because we're still operating within the parameters of the written script of the life plan. But there is room to improvise. There is room to go off script. And also, contrary to popular spiritual fiction, because I often hear that, well, it's just in my life plan to always be sick. It's just in my life plan to suffer. It's just in my life plan to never have money. Okay, let me be crystal clear about that. The life plan is simply a script. It's how you work with yourself when you get here. There are plenty of people I've worked with that signed up for slow healing or gradual healing based upon some kind of event that they're going to have in their life. And that's in their life plan, slow healing or gradual healing. But because they're working with themselves so optimally, they've changed their life plan, and it's no longer slow healing or gradual healing. It's fast healing. It can even be instantaneous healing because they're working with themselves in a more advanced way than they actually mapped out for themselves. The opposite also holds true. I've also worked with people in various ways that have come here and signed up for, and I'll just stick with healing, have come here and signed up for fast healing. And they're not working with themselves properly or optimally. And even though they signed up for fast healing, it's not occurring. It's actually gradual healing or slow healing. So there is free will, kind of. So, and I know that it's kind of, I try to want to give the best answer, the most complete answer that I possibly can. And now to throw a whole wrench in everything I just said is that there's one moment of creation seen from an infinite number of perspectives. And once the moment of creation has occurred, actually from there really is no free will because everything has already been set into motion. So the finite mind doesn't know how to work with that, and that's okay. But the truth of the matter is the answers, the multiple answers that I gave they're all applicable. And what really matters is how we work with ourselves moment to moment. It's not about the plan, the life plan. It's not about so-called prophecy and destiny. Destiny is constantly being rewritten when we work with ourselves optimally. We can move into any quote unquote timeline that we truly desire, but we have to master our attention and intention. And then that's when we actually start to taste our own immortality and our own ability to manifest and create without any limitations. I hope you're enjoying this very important video. I want to make sure you're aware that I'm going to be teaching a class whose subject matter is so controversial that I can't even put it on YouTube because it'll get taken down right away. But it's the second link in the pinned comments below, and I'll be sharing information and know-how and steps that you'll never hear anywhere else but here. I'll see you there.
I would want to go back to what you said at the beginning about how the spiritual community could almost be aligned with mainstream media. And, you know, for myself, I've found it puzzling to hear channelers with these doom and gloom messages. So I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about entities in general. You know, like, can these channelers actually have negative entities with them? And then, yeah, maybe just a little background on entities in general, you know?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So I might have said, I do a lot of talking, Kyle. I might have said in some interview that a lot of the psychics and mediums and channelers that are popular on the spiritual entertainment news networks, they have entities and they don't realize it.
Yeah.
They actually don't realize it. Okay. Now let's back up 1 second and I'll answer your question. Channeling or any kind of psychic ability is a skill. It has nothing to do with wisdom. It has nothing to do with discernment. It's just a skill. That's like someone who's very adept at blowing glass. We would not say they're wise. We would just say they're skilled. Or someone who's really good at doing the hurdles, right? We would not say they're wise. We would say they're skilled. And we have conflated skills of channeling and psychic medium with wisdom. And they don't have anything to do with one another. And I think that's now becoming tangibly obvious to many people. Okay. So if we go back to entities, the first part of your question, let me give you an example of what I see when I unfortunately tune into maybe the shows that have had me on before. So an astral entity, okay, and if we know what astral entity, I'll give the briefest of. The astral realm is the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh frequencies. They're not dimensions. We're not in the third dimension. We're in the third frequency of the first full dimension, which is where all the entire physical universe exists, within the first full dimension. And after the first full dimension, from a human perspective, there's no such thing as any tangibility or solidity. So energy exists in frequency. Energy does not exist in dimension. Dimensions house frequencies. We're in the third frequency, going into the fourth frequency. And the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh is the astral realm. Now, an astral entity is something that cannot sustain its own life force. It's like a parasite. It has to feed on other energies. And those entities that exist in the fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh feed on the energies of what is beneath them, if that makes sense. And so the more low frequency energy that we emanate, the more that we feed them. And now you can see why Hollywood and everything is always negative. Everything is always doom and gloom. Everything is always fear. Pornography is everywhere. It's because that way we just keep emitting these low frequency emotions. And that's actually the sustenance that's used by astral entities. Okay. So what I'll see with channelers or psychics or whatever you want to call them, they're getting information, and they are getting information. They absolutely are getting information. Some it's just their own imagination, but some of them are actually getting information. But what they can't differentiate is that an astral entity can very easily dress up in the astral form, because astral entities can read the mental body. They can flip through the Rolodex of your memories and pick out images, things that scare you, or things that you were very hungry to understand. And they can actually flip through your mind. They literally can, because they're operating in a higher frequency where they have access to what we call the mental body. So some of these astral entities will see who it is that you're desirous. Again, you're reaching outside of yourself, reaching outside to connect with grandma, grandpa, Archangel Michael, this, or the Pleiadians. pick something. It's backwards. The self contains everything. Okay. So as they reach out, they're using your desire against you. Now, how they actually do this is they will find the image of what it is that you're looking for within your mind, and they can literally dress themselves up within the astral form of what it is that you're trying to reach out. And so then the psychic or the channeler then sees Archangel Michael or grandma, whatever, pick something, now sees it and like, oh my, I'm now talking to Archangel Michael. I'm now talking to my grandmother. Actually, you're not. What you're talking to is an astral entity that has cloaked itself in the astral form of who and what it is that you're trying to connect with. And now, because we don't have enough discernment and enough wisdom to actually question and see past just the visual, we just go with it and think that I connected with the Pleiadians. I've connected with my grandma. I've connected with Archangel Michael. You've connected with an astral entity that's fooling you. And that's where we get the doom and gloom fun. So that's one. And I've witnessed this and actually watched this. I've even, on occasion, I've explained it as someone was doing it, what's actually happening as they're channeling. Anytime we reach out, the idea of reaching out, by the way, is something we can talk about. That's backwards. But the idea of reaching out, anytime we do that, we are, myself included, we are putting ourselves in position to be used and abused by energies that we don't understand. And so from my perspective, and from every authentic master and mystic, they've never talked about make sure you can channel. They've never talked about reaching out. They've never talked about trying to contact your guides and helpers. They've never talked about that for a reason, ever. It's all about the I am and the inner guidance system. That's what it's about, using your own tuition. And then simply what I call Clark Kenting it, which is when Clark Kent pulls his business suit apart and then you see the Superman outfit. That's when we work and go within. What we're doing is we're pulling back the veil of personhood and tapping into more of the I am, which contains everything, which is a fractal of God. So when we're trying to reach out and connect and do all these kind of things, that's when the problem arises, because we don't have the discernment to really understand what's really going on.
Now, can channels be channeling while still going within? And how would you advise somebody like myself and Leah, who's trying to run a very, pure channel, to have the proper awareness to make sure that who we're having on isn't spreading, or taken over by some negative entity,
Well, the first dead giveaway is negativity, doom and gloom, chaos, madness, upheaval, destruction. There's no authentic guide or helper that ever speaks in that way. Ever. Well, so that's how you know. So if they're giving you predictions of this and that, they don't really know what they're tapping into. Another thing that you have to be leery of is people's own thought patterns. They become an unclear channel because their own beliefs are getting in the way. So really what they're channeling is just a bigger version of what they most desire through their own beliefs. So when we actually tap in, it becomes quite neutral. There isn't a left or right. There isn't a good or bad. There isn't up or down. So that's part of how you know if someone is speaking in that way. The other thing is, Kyle, I would focus on prescriptive teachings. I would focus on what is applicable. I would focus on what can improve our day-to-day, moment-to-moment life. And if that includes time out, let me go into my room, put my headphones on, light my incense, and get my crystals. And I love incense and crystals. So as I make fun of them, my house is like a crystal cave. But the point is that if we have to take time out, then I think we're not doing it correctly. So I don't even use the word spirituality or spiritual anymore, because it's been completely and utterly hijacked. I only speak in terms of metaphysics, or what is. So the ability to work with oneself optimally, that's actually the only thing that's worth anything. Because if it doesn't apply to your everyday moment-to-moment life, it's useless. It's absolutely useless. And the stuff that's being taught about automatic writing and channeling and segment, how does that help you with your relationship with yourself and with your significant other or your kids or your neighbors? How does that even play into that? And this is what I mean about it being the false light. It should be actionable, tangible, immediate, and improve the quality of your life across the board. And if it doesn't, then it is strictly ego mind identity or the false character reaching out for getting a bigger and more inflated version of itself.
Could ask 100 follow-up questions, but I'll let
My
you in.
turn.
I'll let
No,
you in.
just kidding. You have another question?
Well, I would just say it seems like we're in this age, of the truth coming out. And will this be a part of that? Where channelers, whether they're speaking, from that inner wisdom or not, or just anybody speaking from that inner wisdom, is it all going to get found out? I guess it's just kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I mean, I believe so. I think it's happening right now.
Yeah.
It's literally happening right now. Enough people are sick of watching someone else predict the future through channeling, through destruction of this and that. Just tired of it. It just doesn't even resonate anymore. So the real key about this, Kyle, is detachment. So you can think of it as observer. It's deeper than that, but you could think of it as being the observer. Because even if you know that you're the observer, that means that there's something observing the observer. So we're not quite there, but it's a step in the right direction. So when we detach from what's going on by being fully present. So when we're fully present, you could think of that as meditation. And the easiest way to do that is to simply pretend that you just arrived here, no past, no future. And now the program stops. And now you're present. Now, once we're present, the inner guidance system is on. And once the inner guidance system is on, truth will resonate. It'll be automatic. You will know. And that's actually how you do it. And remember, the truth doesn't require your participation. Lies do. So it's when we make this shift about being present instead of reaching out, the inner guidance system is on. We will know what to do, what not to do, when to do it, what to say, who to say it to, and how to say it. And that guidance is our own intuition, because the intuition is the I am speaking in pure energetics that gets translated by the mind into actions or into ideas rather than thought, which is past and future. So it's detachment, locking into the inner guidance system, which gives us discernment, and then the truth will resonate. And once we start to work in that way, and only in that way, because the finite mind cannot discern intention. It's very easy to trick the finite mind. If it just makes logical sense, the mind gets pleased. It's like the mental masturbation. If it fits like a logic and linearity program, that's soothing to the mind, and the mind likes that. And it just says, that makes sense. But it doesn't understand the intention behind it. Soda looks good and tastes good, right? It's poison. But it sure looks good and tastes good, doesn't it? It's very pleasing, right? It's poison. Detachment, inner guidance system, discernment, truth will resonate. This is the future of humanity. As we start to take our attention away from realities that we don't wish to build, then we will then realize that we are writing destiny every single moment that we're here.
You talked in terms of channeling about these higher forces, and I'd love to hear your perspective on just, it's almost hard to believe there's not when you look around. Is there not an actual force of evil or Satan, a something? Because even, there's some ideas that are actually really popular now that you'd almost be afraid to speak out against. And when you get down to it, they're just really evil.
Okay.
So is that its own operating force?
Okay. All right. So when we use words like evil, good versus evil, how many times have we heard that? This is the battle for humanity's soul. Okay. Right? I mean, please. Okay. So we've heard that 1,000 times, right? All right. So when we use the word evil, the first thing I want us to look at clearly from a very detached perspective is that we're viewing things through a religious perspective. Okay. So anytime we're viewing things from a certain perspective, it's kind of like us taking a snow globe and you shake it and the snow's you can't really see clearly, right? Because you're viewing it from a perspective. You're viewing it through a dirty windshield. And this is where we get good versus evil. Okay. Evil does not exist. Does not exist. That's a religious perspective. Now, what does exist? We'll expand on it. What does exist is there are, I'll use the word entities. There are entities that have gotten so far from who and what they really are, which is love and wisdom, who subsets our talents and abilities. That's what the I am is. That's what the fractal of God is. It is our depth, our level, our amount of love and wisdom. There are some entities, and I'm not using the word beings. Those are two different things. There are some entities that have gotten so far away from who and what they really are that they actually have lost all conscious connection to love, to their own love, and therefore they are incapable of being that love or expressing that love. And so therefore they're able to operate in a way that, from a purely metaphysical perspective, they're able to operate in a way that is completely and utterly low frequency. Because there's high frequency and low frequency. That's metaphysics and that's tangible. I don't talk about good versus evil and spirituality and all this other utter garbage. So these entities have moved away from their own love, who and what they are, and therefore they are able to operate in a way that those that have been brainwashed through religion, like most of us, they would call it evil. It is not. There's no such thing, because it's all God. It's all God. We've just gotten far away. Some have gotten very far away from their own love and wisdom, and that's how they can operate in the way that they do, and then we label it evil. Now, I hope that makes sense. So, without predatory type energies, like a shark, is a shark evil? No. It's hungry. It's hungry. Is it angry when it jumps up and bites something to eat? Is it angry or is it just hungry? It's hungry. Is a lion evil? I mean, I don't think so. It's hungry. Even as it grabs that little gazelle, as difficult as it may be to watch, it grabs that gazelle and eats. It's not angry. It's hungry. Okay, so if we can start to see things clearly from a detached perspective, we'll just start to understand that there are absolutely predatory energies. I just named some predatory energies. There are absolutely beings that operate in a predatory way, but without them providing the evolutionary tension, there wouldn't be evolution. So this is also difficult for the finite mind to work with. We need evolutionary tension, which makes us Clark Kented and reach within ourselves and bring out the best in ourselves, to tap into more of our love and wisdom and our talents and abilities. And that is what evolution is. So there has to be evolutionary tension. I mean, we're the ones that created these bad guys. That's a whole nother conversation. We're the ones that created these bad guys, because a long time ago, a very long time ago, the origination of the human experiment, which is the individualized experiment in free will. That's a human being is an experiment in individualized free will. And when this first started a very, very long time ago, when we would show up here, it was like we were all just sitting around singing Kumbaya and there was no evolution. Nothing was happening. So we actually created and pulled in bad guys to create evolutionary tension for our own evolution. So there's so much more that goes to this that our conditioned mind can never really understand and also can never really access. And then we try to take this much, much larger picture that we don't really have access to, and then we try to reduce it down to something. And that's where we just get confused. So when we have a question, a burning question, this is going to sound bizarre, but just go with me. We have a burning question about something. Instead of seeking the answer, give yourself any answer you want to that question, any answer. And then see if that's satisfying. And then see if that stops the questioning. Now, what you're going to find is that when you give yourself any answer, It doesn't matter what the answer is. You never actually feel better, and it never stops the questioning, right? Which you just experienced. Now, this is profound. Now, what this means is that answers are irrelevant because the questions don't matter. Now, with this understanding, we're getting closer to liberation. So instead of seeking answers, because it doesn't matter what the answer is, because we now understand that questions are irrelevant, the key is to go to the source of the questioner who keeps asking questions, and shine the light on the questioner, which is just the fragmented egoic mind. And once you shine the light on the questioner by doing self-inquiry, you'll realize that that is a shadow and it'll disappear as soon as you shine your light on it. Now what remains is the real you. So when we operate backwards from the way that we have been told to operate, reach out, figure out, connect with this, connect with that, think it through, do the opposite. Do the opposite. We just had that tangible experience about giving yourself any answer. Doesn't change anything, does it? That's because the questions don't matter. It's the fulcrum that the program that is running, which is the ego mind identity, which is voracious, because it's here and it's disconnected from the source of knowingness, which is the Superman, which is the I am. And so once we lock ourselves in the present moment, the program stops running and the inner knowingness will start to take over. And then we create from this limitless space rather than trying to figure out within the boxes of limitations that we're running within our programmed mind.
Well, now we have no more questions.
No.
Right.
I still did. Maybe I failed. Maybe
present.
maybe I failed the exercise because I still have plenty more. So you know, like I want to just keep going back to everything you've been saying because my mind's blown open. But basically, you know, thinking about like just going outside is can be a source of a problem, I guess. Thinking about everything you've said about the ascended masters in past interviews being such a positive influence, is that because they're inside or is it different?
Okay, but yes. Okay. The self is whole and complete. It's a fractal of God. That's what the I am is, right? Okay. We are literally a fractal. It's like if you have a big glass of water and you literally take one drop out of that big glass of water, that one drop is H2O. It's just like the big glass of water. It's just less in volume. It's exactly the same though, just less in volume. So that's what we are. We are exactly that. We are a drop, a fractal, however you want to say that, of God. The I am is God. The I am is whole and complete, just like God is. God is not lacking anything or missing anything. God is not all-knowing because God is learning about itself as its creations create to learn about itself. So this misnomer about God knows everything is absolutely incorrect. From a human perspective, God certainly knows everything. And the next book that comes out are conversations that I have with God that explain these things from a purely metaphysical perspective about what this is really like. But the self is whole and complete. So what that means is there's nothing outside of the self. This is putting us in a state of delusion and illusion. And that's why it's disempowering, because it's inauthentic. So the idea of the ascended masters, what they have taught, and those that keep showing up continue to teach, is to go within and access more of the I am, which is where the source of knowingness is, and all questions stop, all incompleteness stops, all limitations stop, all seeking of security stops. The only security is the I am. So when we reverse, remember, ego mind is always outward, right? The I am within. There are many rooms within my Father's house. It's this. And once you start working in that way, everything changes. You're no longer looking for answers. What you're experiencing is more and more of yourself, and then the ability to simply express yourself. You're not seeking anything. There are no questions. You're not trying to achieve, acquire, or become. You are whole and complete. You have realized the self-realization, and that it is simply about expressing and sharing your depth of love and wisdom, whose subsets are your talents and abilities. The Ascended Masters are a small group, 13 of them, are a small group of beings that represent an embodiment of what it is that I'm speaking about. And they all think of a pizza. So if you have a pizza and you cut it into, let's say, 12 slices, right? You could think of each one of these ascended masters as being one complete slice of the totality of existence. So Paramahansa Yogananda is the master of love. Buddha, who was Thoth, who was Hermes Trismegistus, Buddha is the master of wisdom. Christ, the master Sananda, is the master of purity. Saint Germain is the master of alchemy and magic. Sri Yukteswar is the master of the will. But if you start to put them all, and I could go on and on, but I won't. You start to put them all together, you have the totality of all existence, and they are an embodiment of one of those pieces. And their being here is the tangibility and reflects back that inner perfection, our own self-realization reflected back. And that's really the role that they play when they come here. They have mastered themselves. They have mastered themselves. And then therefore it's tangible for others and they can see it. It's not just talking the talk, it's walking the walk. They can be around that energy. They just basking within the light that emanates from one of these beings is actually what changes this planet. And contrary to popular spiritual fiction, ascended masters continually reincarnate over and over and over again. Most of them are not recognized until well after their lifetime. And then you look back at their life and their body of work and you say, oh, well, obviously that was an incarnation of an ascended master. It's more rare that they're recognized during the incarnation, but they are the true teachers of humanity. Make no mistake about that. They are the ones providing the catalyst for our own evolution by being an embodiment of a higher level of consciousness.
You talked about and I think this was such a great idea. I've done this before where you just pretend that you're landing right where you are. Like it's like, hey, I'm on Earth right this second. I would love for you to talk about any other techniques or practices people can do to just strip themselves of their personhood and everything they're carrying and be more in the present.
Well, I have written 3 books so far. There's a 4th coming out, but I've written 3 books so far that all of them are kind of that. I've made course after course after course that I teach that are really all about that. There's what I call a meditation masterclass that people can buy, and it's got all of these instantaneous meditation magic tricks that brings us to the present moment in instant meditation in 1 second, which breaks the spell of the ego mind identity. So another one is simply to say to yourself, I don't know and I don't care. Now, when you do that, which some of you probably just did, when you do that, the I don't know, excuse me, the I don't know metaphysically what's happening beyond the physical sensory perceptions. You say, I don't know. What you're really doing is you're kind of emptying the mental container. So the mind goes blank. I don't know. It's like you almost wiped it clean. Mm-hmm. And then when you say, I don't care, you're doing the same thing with your emotional body. So that container, what's happening is the source point is going previous to what created it, but it's emptying the mental container and it's emptying the emotional container. So by saying, I don't know, and I don't care, instantaneous meditation, you're completely and utterly fully present. So that's another one that we can do in 1 second. Another one that we can do is, we've all seen a periscope on a submarine, comes out of the ship, right? Okay. So, and the one that's looking through that periscope is the captain of the ship, who's way down deep in the hull of the ship, right? Okay. Now, behind that periscope, those binoculars, viewfinders, however you want to describe it, there's no computer behind it. There's no brain behind it. It's pure awareness. It's pure awareness. No analysis, which is your conditioned mind. No analysis. So if we can allow ourselves to use this as the periscope, pure awareness, sight, hearing, taste, smell, pure awareness, no analysis, and start to feel and realize who is looking out and from where. You'll actually feel something right here. And you are the captain way down deep in the hull of the ship. And that's the I am. And this is a periscope. And let yourself feel that presence right here. Now, all these things, and there's a ton others, but all these things only take 1 second. And by being present, you just flow. The beingness is online. You just let the beingness flow into the doingness. You don't have to call upon your conditioned mind. Flow state is being completely and utterly present and completely and utterly engaged in what you're doing. We all know what that's like. We've done it when we're dancing, writing, cooking, making love. It's when we're completely and utterly engrossed and engulfed in what we're doing. That is flow state. Now, there's no thought, because thought's electromagnetic interference. It's not your true signal. The flow state, because we are the life force, the flow state, by just doing a magic trick in 1 second, you're now online, and let that beingness flow into your doingness. Beingness flowing into the doingness, which doesn't require a thought. Now, these are some of the things, and there's hundreds more. These are part of what I teach, what I write about. They're in the classes and courses. And then to take that many, 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 many levels, quantum leaps past that. But that is the understanding. It's as simple as getting yourself present in 1 second, and then allowing the beingness to flow right into the doingness without stopping to go into the conditioned mind and then doubt yourself.
I might periscope all of tomorrow.
Yeah, I was thinking all the time, I'm going to get in trouble for saying, I don't know, I don't care.
You better care.
Doing these meditations around the house when you're asking about the laundry. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I wanted to just touch base on, I've heard you talk about the age of Aquarius. Could you just enlighten me on what that is?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. It's feminine in nature, and it's about the act of receiving and allowing, right? The spaciousness. You could think of feminine energy. This is a great reduction, by the way. So I don't really like to speak in this way, but you could think of feminine energy as the spaciousness that can actually that does actually hold and contain everything. And the masculine energy is the insertion of the doingness within the space. Does that make sense?
Gotcha.
Okay. So Age of Aquarius is marked by Saint Germain, or Master R. Saint Germain is an incarnation of Master R, as is Moses and Merlin and Gilgamesh and Francis Bacon and R.J. Spina. So these are incarnations from one higher self that are representative of a new age, the wisdom that transcends knowledge. Age of Aquarius is more of a beingness and allowing ourselves to be spacious enough for our beingness to flow into that space without it coming in. So in other words, it is happening within without reaching out. It is not toxic masculinity is excessive doingness and not being able to control our doingness.
Right.
So this is a different age. We've been a programmed slave for long enough. So now we're going to allow our own I am. We're going to Clark Kent it. We're now going to allow this to open up, and the beingness is now online, and that beingness is now going to flow. And that's actually, this is the age that's representative of that. And I call it the wisdom that transcends knowledge. And everything I teach is the foundation. Believe it or not, everything I teach is the foundation for the Age of Aquarius. That's what all these books, classes, and courses and interviews are all about. So we can learn how to work with ourselves in this really effortless, kind of constant flow state where we haven't put ourselves in our own straitjacket. So the age of Aquarius is feminine, and the allowance of us to flow and fill that space really from the best of who and what we really are, rather than excessive doingness at the behest of our programmed mind. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's basically everything we've been talking about so far. So glad that we brought that up. Now, is it starting now?
Yeah. So, okay. I've sometimes heard people say that we're in the Kali Yuga, we're in the darkest. No, 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 no. My own direct calculations, we're roughly about 230 some odd years. I'd have to redo it again. We're roughly about 230 some odd years into the ascending stage of what's called the Dwapara Yuga. And if anyone is interested in understanding the yugas and what that really represents, you can read The Holy Science by Master M. El Morya. In that incarnation, he was Sri Yukteswar, which was the guru to Paramahansa Yogananda. So he wrote a book called The Holy Science, which is really hard to read. But he wrote a book called The Holy Science, which talks about the yugas. Now, I think the easiest way to understand it is not to look at time, because time doesn't really exist, right? It's thinking that creates the illusion of time and the delusion of knowledge. And humanity locks itself in time through thought, because everything is happening right now. So without thought, you have access to everything. But if you start to look at, instead of time, think of a flower, because it's pretty. No, think of a flower, and it goes through these stages, right? Where first there's nothing there, and then it starts to come up, and then it starts to flower, and then it completely flowers. You could think of that as enlightenment, the complete bloom, or the lotus petal of Buddha was talking about, all of it completely illuminated and lit up and totally open, right? Now, what happens with that flower is that eventually that same process starts to happen again. It starts to die down and disappears. Okay. So the age of Aquarius is where we're at. We are definitely in this. We're working towards blooming. It'll take about 300 more years, by the way. We're working towards blooming right now. This is the most important stage of this evolutionary cycle, right? This very moment. And that's why there's such a war for your attention. Your attention on doom and gloom, your attention on chaos from the spiritual community, your attention on doom and gloom, chaos, madness, destruction, right? Because they want to make sure that that dystopian reality actually comes into our timeline. And this doesn't fully bloom. We just get another version or a parallel condition of not quite open. And that's really what that's about. We are in the age of Aquarius, and we've been in it for a little while now. And the start of it, the real start of it was believe it or not, with America, which was the signing of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. That was the real start of it. Believe it or not. Christopher Columbus is also an incarnate. That's what I said. Christopher Columbus is also an incarnation of Master R. Christopher Columbus was an ascended master. So everyone who's got the woke virus can now get all triggered about that. So that's absolutely. So we are now in this very important stage, and where we put our attention intention will determine the reality that we create for ourselves. It's so important that we become supremely mindful of what we're putting our attention on. Never put your attention on what you don't want to grow, because where your attention goes, your energy flows, and wherever you're putting your attention will grow. So if we reversed it and kept putting our attention on, within, as, for, and by the self, then this is what grows, rather than out there, and we're growing a reality we don't desire.
I have just a couple more questions because I want to use this time, and I think it's so profound. You know, everything you said, I just want to thank you, because it's kind of just allowed me to reflect on some of the work we've done, and kind of just the message and really what I want our message to be going forward for the evolution of, you know, everybody. Make sure it's always positive, not anything that's like could even potentially be slightly alarming to somebody, to try to get them, you know. So I hear that. My question is, how would you know if you have a negative energy or a lower frequency energy on you? Because it seems like there could be a lot of them.
Okay. Moody. Jumping from one thing to the next. Can't stay focused. Self-destructive. Always on the defensive and having a superior attitude. So you're being manipulated. Those are some of the telltale signs. And then also being, and this is where it gets really tricky, and this is part of the psychics and the channelers. So because these entities exist in higher frequencies, they do have access to more than our physical sensory perceptions, which is a very narrow bandwidth part of the local environment. Our body is attuned to and part of the local environment. So these entities are existing in slightly higher frequential realms. So therefore, they have access to more information. And so an entity or attachment will give you information that will make you feel psychic. Will make you feel like you're getting access to information, and then you become very vain and very full of yourself. And so and then that gets emanated and it feeds on that. So it's this symbiotic relationship. So if we think that we know it all, if we think that we're always right, if we're very moody, if we can't stay focused, if we defend ourselves in a very attacking and demeaning way towards others, if we can't look at ourselves at all, so this is all protection mechanisms. And then the self-destructive behavior. So, and that can take the form of many, many different things, from drugs and alcohol to, getting ourselves involved with people that, there's not a lot of positivity that's going to come out from associating ourselves. Self-destructive behavior is right up there. And also, you'll just feel like you're not in control of yourself. You'll just be like, why am I feeling this way? Like, I'm like, what is this about? And now we can get rid of them by I did a whole class and a whole meditation on how to remove astral entities. But the shortest answer, without me giving you the prescriptive notes, is we have to raise our frequency, because they low frequency entities cannot attach itself within a high frequency environment. So as you raise your frequency, there's nothing they can do. So moodiness, self-destructive behavior, very, very vain, very full of themselves, can't look in the mirror, and very attacking. Very attacking. What's that, silver-tongued, or whatever that term is, really lashing out. And that's the entity protecting its food source.
Could they come to us in a deep meditation, or would it be they're coming to us when we're not, like, or are they just with us? Because the reason I asked this is I had a very spiritual experience. Like, it was a spiritual awakening experience, but I was doing a DMT breathing exercise, and I had a 5-dimensional pyramid with an eye on it following me around the room. And it seemed like the most loving energy I've ever experienced. And then it went into my pineal gland. Like, it just went in. And it was the weirdest thing ever. And then for weeks, I saw pharaohs and all this stuff. But I've heard people say that might have not been a good energy. And so I don't know. And I know this is kind of vulnerable to say in front of everybody, but like, could it be a bad energy? Could it be? I don't really know.
Okay. Let's back up for 1 second on that, Kyle. Okay. So anytime we use a physical interface, what does that mean? Okay. Drugs, DMT, a pendulum, tarot, a crystal, an antibiotic. So anytime that we use a physical interface.
This was natural DMT, like natural. Just so I don't know if that changes anything, like basically breathing to cause DMT to be released from my brain. But either way.
So when it starts to come down to, what is our intention? What are we trying to do? Because as we're trying and reaching out, we become vulnerable instead of going within. So we have to look at, what is it that we're trying to achieve? Because entities or predatory energies will take advantage of the desire. They take advantage of our desire, and then they manipulate and do things like you just described, by taking advantage of, because we're not locked in our own power. We're not rooted directly in the I am. The I am is unshakable and unmovable. Completely. Right? So it's the ego mind that's reaching out to try to acquire, become, or achieve something. So we have to be really mindful about that. And to go back to physical interfaces, whether it's DMT or marijuana or crystals or tarot or pendulums, anytime we're using a physical interface, we're limited to the energies associated with the physical interface. There's nothing limited about your consciousness. It's God. But there are absolute limitations in terms of physical interfaces. So we're always going to be selling ourselves short every time we use a physical interface. It's also representative of a reactionary and addictive type behavior of reaching out for something. I just got to get this, and I just got to have that, and I just get like it becomes addictive. That thinking that you need something outside of yourself to experience more of yourself.
Mm.
So we have to be mindful about that. And that also just goes back to like the channeling and the reaching out and this and that and getting my pendulum. And those things are all permission slips, but they're also training wheels. And at some point you have to realize there's a limitation in those things. And your mind has absolutely no limitation. None whatsoever. Does that make sense?
It does. And I just want to clarify, how do we clear negative energies just in case we have one? You know,
Raise your frequency.
raise the frequency.
Yeah. So meditation.
Nice.
Right, is one way to do that, right? So non-identification with the physical body, right? Complete inner stillness and silence. Complete inner stillness and silence actually raises our frequency tremendously. Thinking is low frequency, emoting is low frequency. So we're in that state of clarity and non-emotionality, which is doing nothing, but it's not. That doing nothing in action is taking place. The frequency is going up because you're starting to attune body mind to the I am. And so that's how you raise your frequency. And low frequency entities cannot stay within a high frequency environment. And that's part of how healing works as well. They work, they're similar, they're not the exact same thing, but they're similar.
This has been so amazing. Like, it just feels so true. You know, we have a lot of people on, but everything you said just really made me feel a lot of clarity into my own knowing, you know, kind of affirmed what I already know, but you just made it really clear.
That if it doesn't make you feel lighter and freer, then it's not the truth.
Now, how can we support you? I know, like, it seems pretty crazy because I feel like every time I talk to you, you've already like published 2 new books or something.
I've got 8 courses.
Yeah.
2 books. I got 1 out next year.
So what's the best thing that people can do to get in touch with, you know, your latest and greatest work?
Okay. By the way, I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. The website, it's a very long URL, but it's ascendthefrequencies.com. There's a boatload of information. There's always some kind of banner or some kind of, you know, RJ will be doing this, or RJ will be doing that. But at the bottom of the website, ascendthefrequencies.com, there's a place to just sign up for the newsletter. And I'm always sending out information about, hey, I'm going to be teaching a course on manifestation in, you know, 5 weeks, or I'll be doing a workshop in, you know, Kauai or whatever. So ascendthefrequencies.com, and there's a newsletter to sign up. And then also I'm fairly active on YouTube and Instagram. Thank God I have a team that knows how to do that stuff because I don't. So if you subscribe to the YouTube channel and you just look up my name, RJ Spina, or Send the Frequencies, there's 3 or 4 new videos going up every week. Some of them are an hour long. I mean, they're just filled with enlightened metaphysics, and then things that are going to be going on. When does the new book? When is the new course? So YouTube, Instagram, again, RJ Spina, Send the Frequencies, and the website. And yeah, there always is something going on, a new course, a new book, a new this, a new that. So just, yeah, avail yourself of it. The teachings of liberation are here. So we just have to avail ourselves of them and then put them to good use.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for this time. Really appreciate it and grateful for this opportunity.
Yeah.
Welcome back my way on this divinely guided day, Soul Tribe family. Hopefully you are well and you are rested, and so are your families. Okay.